Welcome back to Venom Motorsports. So today what I'm going to show you how to do is how to change your front sprocket. So if you want to go to a 17 tooth sprocket, you can do it the same way. But it doesn't matter if you're going to a stock one, an upgraded one, it's all the same way. We're going to do it all the same. So no matter what sprocket you're putting on here, it's going to be the same process. So I've already got my tools out. What you're going to need is you're going to need a 19 mil socket. 19, you're going to need a 10 mil socket, 8 mil socket with an extension, a 17 wrench, and a 13 mil wrench. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to bother removing my cover just yet. I'm going to go ahead and loosen off my back axle so I can let the tensioners go. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. So down here is where our 19 is, and on the other side of that is the 17. So this is where we're going to loosen first. And what this is going to do is we're going to loosen this the axle off the swing arm a bit so this can move back and forth so we can tighten and loosen the chain. So we're going to go ahead and do that first. So we're going to need our 19 mil socket, and we're going to need our 17 mil wrench. 19 mil here, 17 mil right here, and loosen. Now you don't have to take this nut right off, just give it a good loosen, just like that. Next, you're going to need your 13 mil wrench. And you just want to loosen that first nut. Usually they don't both loosen at the same time. So we're going to loosen those off. And we're going to do that on both sides. It doesn't matter if we loosen it off. It's fine if we do. I'm going to show you how later. I'm going to separate them two nuts. I'm going to show you how later to get your chain tight and make sure that your back tire stays straight. So we're going to do the same thing on the other side. We're going to loosen them off so those nuts move too. Like that. Okay, now we can just loosen both nuts off, and that'll take the pressure off the chain. So now you see this is loose, the tensioners are loose, and we can leave these tools here because we don't need them anymore up right there. So next what we're going to do is we're going to go to the side where our sprocket cover is. And that's where we're going to need our 10 mil, and it's where we're going to need our 8 mil. So our 8 mil is going to take off the sprocket cover bolt. There's one on the top, and there's one on the bottom. And we're just going to pull that off like that. There's one, and we're going to pull it off. Okay, now when you pull this off, lay it down on its back. Don't lay it down on the top because it's just going to get all scratched. Okay, so we're gonna leave that there. Now we're gonna need our 10 mil, and the reason we need our 10 mil is loosen our two bolts off the sprocket itself. And your chain should be loose. You want your chain to be loose, that's fine. You'll notice I have a lot of tension in my chain. I'm not worried about that right now. Now, if you see it's really crusty there, and then the bolt is very crusty too, but you want it to be crusty because this right here is locked tight. That stops this bolt from loosening up. So we're going to put some Loctite back on. So if you find it hard when you're taking these bolts off, that's the reason it's hard, is because it's got some Loctite on it. Okay, I'll pull that off now. So this, you just have to turn until these little key waves line up right here on your shaft, your drive shaft. Now, pull the sprocket off, just wiggle it back and forth. Off it comes, just like that. And this is your, this is a 14 tooth. But if you're gonna put a 17 tooth on, it's not gonna make a difference. because we left our chain nice and loose, all we have to do, take our new sprocket, like this, and we can go ahead and put it on there. Now, the way I like to do it is a lot of people have a hard time doing it, to try to line these up on here once you have it on the chain. That's no problem at all. All you do, go back here, lift your chain off your back sprocket, just like that, and then go ahead and put your sprocket on the front, just like that. Put your keyway back in place and match it with the holes. Now I'm not going to tighten those in. I want to make sure and put some Loctite on those first. And the reason that you do put Loctite on like this, I like the 277. It works good for what I'm doing. You can use the blue too, but I really like the red because it's high strength. So we're gonna put, and like I said, we're only gonna put a drop. We're not gonna just soak this in it. Oh, I gotta open it first. There we go. I'm not gonna just soak it in it. I'm just gonna put a little bit. There you go. There. Just a drop, just like that. And now we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna put our bolt back in. And if you do this without Loctite, there's a good chance you might lose a bolt while you're riding. And you don't want to do that, then your sprocket can fly off, and you don't want that to happen. So we're gonna go ahead and put that back on. Just like that. I'm not going super tight, you notice, just that much, just the dots. And then I'm gonna go ahead and put a drop on the other one. You don't need a big bottle of Loctite like this. I use it every day. So I have a big bottle. You can get like a Loctite in a tube, very little small tube. Doesn't need to be that big. I think I tightened that too tight, the other one. So I can't. That's another thing. Don't tighten things up really tight until you get your other bolt in, because you'll notice that I just had that problem, and then people will say, well, it's not going in. Well, it will. Just loosen it up so that you can. There we go. And even after I'm done here, I'm not done. I can only tighten it so far because the sprocket just wants to turn. That's normal. We're going to tighten that up, and I'm going to show you how. So we don't need the Loctite anymore. We'll get that out of the way. Next, what we're going to do is we're going to put a chain back on. And everybody has done this at one time or another when you rode your bicycle and your chain came off. Just put it on like that on your sprocket. Make sure the chain's not jammed anywhere like that. Just like that, and then roll your bike forward. And don't pinch your fingers in the chain, guys. Just roll it forward, and the chain will pop on. There we go. Just like that. But now that our chain is back on, now we're going to come up and we're going to tighten our bolts. There, that one's tight. There we go. And that's tight. And that's how you do it. So now we don't need this cover to be off anymore. Even though this chain is like slopping around there, that doesn't matter. We're going to tighten that in a second. We can go ahead and we can put our cover back on. So when you put your cover back on, it just folds in like that, goes on. Go ahead and straighten your first bolt. Just like that. go. So we'll tighten those up. A little ratchet. There we go. Tight. Okay. Okay. Now, so we're done now with our 8 mil and our 10 mil. So we'll put that all over with the Loctite there. And it's time now to start tightening up our chain. So now, when we tighten up the chain, I look at the back tire. Both these sides, this side and this side, have to match. If they don't match, your tire's gonna track sideways, and you don't want that. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna start tightening up on this side first. This side's the one that has the chain on it. So I'm gonna watch. This one's just the bolt to lock it, to lock the other one in place. So first thing I'm gonna do, I'm gonna start tightening it. And as you tighten this, you can watch your chain move. See it moving up? Now how tight's the chain? It's still a little bit loose, but I'm gonna tighten it just a little bit more. I want it a little bit loose when I go ahead and do the other side. So now we're gonna check our distance here on this, and then on the other side. First things first, we're gonna go over, and I wanna tighten up this other side a bit. So we're gonna tighten this. Look at our gap. Our gap is pretty close. I'm gonna tighten it a little bit more. Yeah, it needs to come back some, so we're gonna keep tightening. Our gap is getting closer, so now what I want to do, I don't want these flopping around, so I'm going to tighten it just a bit. I don't want it super tight, I just want it a little bit tight. Now I'm going to check my chain again. Not too bad. So I'm going to give it another little tighten here. And if I look, I got the smallest little gap here, and it's the same on the other side. I just want to give it one more little tighten on this side. So I can see I have the smallest little gap there. And it's got a good open spot, but you see that little tiny gap? I want to match that on the other side. So from what I'm looking at here on the other side here, it's almost matched. It's still a little bit bigger gap here, so I'm going to want to turn it in a bit. And what I do is really tightening up that chain. So the chain right now is way too tight. That is not tight, or way too tight. So I want to loosen that off just a bit. A little hair more right there. That's perfect. You want about a 1/4 to 1/2 inch play in your chain, and that's it. No more than that. So now that's where I want it to be. So I can go ahead and lock that nut in behind the first one. And if you do it in little jumps like that, it'll just get hard. It won't move this nut. So that's good. I got a little tiny gap there, just like I wanted. Now I'm gonna go to the other side, make sure that gap's the exact same. Yep, same thing. So now I know this is in the right spot. I can tighten up this last one. There we go. Now, I want to go ahead and tighten this axle down. So I'm going to have to hold with my 17 on the other side. And you want to make sure that this is tight. There we go, that's nice and tight. And that's it, guys. That's how you change your front sprocket. And like I said, it could be from the 14 tooth to the 17 tooth. Really doesn't make a difference. It's the exact same process. So I hope you liked the video, guys. So like and subscribe, and hope to see you in the next video.